Jorge, I'm so glad Halloween is over and I'm using my regular mirror again because, so much bigger and I can see so much more of my beautiful... Hey! Hi, dolls! It's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 4, Episode 7. Oh my god, there were tears, and not because of the makeovers or an MIA host, but before we get to all of that, I've got another red bubble model to ooh and ah over. This is Love Fetus, yes, as in Love Child, in a black tee with Denise Journaux's Fingerdoo design on it. Looking good, LP! If you'd like to get this or any of Denise Journaux's fabulous designs on a t-shirt, mug, or whatever, the link to my Redbubble store is in the description box down below. Now, Jorge, drink me! Oh, somebody went to the store and got more ginger crayon. A lot of vodka. Thank you, Jorge. Okay, let's get to it. Well, all I can say is this episode was fraught, I tell you, with drama and intrigue. There were feels galore, which was also my drag queen name in high school. There was an extremely controversial guest judge and a host gone MIA, needless to say. There is lots to discuss, so let's just get to it. First off, I thought it was going to be a somber workroom as the remaining queens bid LaFille farewell, but I was wrong. As much as the queens were going to miss her, they were much more focused on keeping themselves in the game. Black Peppa was feeling her oats, I'm so serious. If she was good enough to send LaFille home, the rest of those queens had better watch out. Big talk, I'm just going to say. Pixie was unimpressed by LaFille's lip sync. What with her stripping down to her insteps and, well, whipping mud and leaves around like a Drag Race photo challenge win machine, bless her heart. Still, farewells aside, the top 6 queens did take a moment to celebrate making it this far and to congratulate Cheddar for winning the Snatch Game and possibly stealing the comedy crown from Miss Danny Beard. Not that Danny was worried. Her ego wouldn't let her. Oh! Pixie noted that this season's top 6 were very strong and diverse, which got, still badgeless, Jonbers wondering what her strength was. The other queens conceded it was survival, which they seemed to infer wasn't a great skill. Hell, I think they're all underestimating Jonbers, which proves to me that her real skill is flying under the radar. I'm so serious. I said skill. The next day, Ru's video message was all about giving back and dragging up the ones you're with. So, of course, the queens guessed makeovers. But with whom? When Ru arrived, she very happily announced that indeed the queens would be doing makeovers and the recipients were Drag Race's queen team. These are the ladies who helped the queens behind the scenes to be their most stunning selves. And let me tell you, the queens loved it. Hell, I loved it. Who doesn't enjoy a makeover? And you could see how much these ladies meant to the queens and their success in the contest. Hell, even I was getting teary. Ooh, me and Jobbers. Ru teamed the queens with their victims. Well, I mean makeover recipients. Alphabetically. Fleur was paired with Black Peppa, which seemed to suit Peppa just fine. That was until Fleur dropped her bomb, and I'm not talking in a we need to light a match kind of way. No. Fleur's bomb was when she came out, she ditched wearing heels and was in no way looking to put them back on again. Wow. I thought Peppa was going to quit right there and then, but because this was Fleur, she was going to make it work. I mean, what choice did she have? Gemma was with Cheddar Gorgeous, and neither were upset with that. I love that Cheddar got to the most important thing first. A drag name. I feel if you have a name you like, it's easier to build a persona. Maybe that's why Jonbers doesn't have a badge yet. Lucy was teamed with Dakota, and no one was more excited at the news of becoming a shiffer than her. Clearly, these were two girly girls who weren't afraid of a little 1960s Balenciaga glam. Seriously. How could you be? Mystique was teamed with Danny Beard, and can I just say, I love it when cis women have drag queen names. Hell, my birthday twin Candace is living proof of that. I love you, Candace. Right away, Danny asked Mystique if she'd ever been in drag before. She hadn't. Well, not by Drag Race standards, at least. As a self-professed bisexual, Mystique definitely has her own personal style of daily drag, but she seemed worried about being the shyest member of the Queen team, being paired up with the most extroverted queen in the top 6. Danny wasn't worried. Of course she wasn't. Her whole focus was on family resemblance, and that family resemblance involved facial hair. Mystique wasn't thrilled. As someone who's often misgendered as male, she was getting a little triggered by Danny's face wigs. Danny was getting a little triggered by her obvious disinterest in wearing one. See, I told you, drama. Olivia got a very excited Jonbers Blonde as her teammate. I was very touched at how safe and protected Jonbers wanted Olivia to feel during the process. In fact, when Olivia admitted that the biggest fear for her was walking that runway, well, Jonbers admitted that it scared her too. Do you think that helped? Wendy, the undisputed queen of the Queen team, got Pixie polite, and they both seemed super excited for this challenge. Wendy even had a name picked out in honor of her abundant booty, Huge Arse, which, thankfully, Pixie talked her out of by saying it was more of a drag king name. Well, she's not wrong. I know I've met a couple of Huge Arses in my time. Something that caught my ear as these two were kibitzing was Pixie calling Wendy her drag mom. Now, I'm sure that Wendy is a year or two older than Pixie. I mean, in fact, I think she said she was 60, but age knows no drag daughter. If you put them in drag for the first time and show them a rope or two, you're their drag mother. Now act like it. Seriously. Almost lost my cool there. Then Rue showed up to, oh wait, no she didn't. It was Raven who dropped by to check on the team's progress. Where was Rue? The 6 remaining queens were so stunned they didn't think to ask, and to be honest, it was nice seeing Raven fly solo for a change. Maybe the next time Rue is MIA, Raven can stand in again. When's her season 2 of Painted with Raven coming out? Seriously. We're due, no? First on Raven's dance card was Peppa and Fleur. Peppa, who's not painted a lot of other people, said she was going to go the club kid route to show off her artistry. Raven had an excellent note for Peppa. Because the camera lights wash everything out, Raven suggested that she try and cut her crease more to make it pop. That's violent. Pixie and Wendy were next, but the majority of their visit was taken up by Wendy's gripping, and I do mean gripping, tale of tucking an errant testicle back in the corral for some nameless queen. I bet it was treats of it. Cheddar and Gemma were next, and I have to agree with Cheddar. Of all the Queen team, Gemma has the attitude of a drag queen. She seemed totally excited to be cheesed up. As well she should be. Sounds kind of gummy. Jonbers and Olivia were Raven's next couple, and because Jonbers had never really painted anyone before, she wasted no time asking Raven for tips. And boy, did Raven have one. For Jonbers and girls like her who don't have a lot of real estate between their lip and their nose, Raven suggested contouring her nose higher to give the sense of a shorter nose and more space there. Seriously, it works. Well, to a point, and then we're moving into Hitler territory, which is never good. Lucy and Dakota's peach cloud descended next, and right away Raven asked if Dakota was going to drag up their looks. That's never good. Danny and Mystique were next. Mystique's decision about the facial hair, still a mystery. Dun, dun, dun. Nothing warms my heart more than seeing a cis female having difficulty walking in heels. See? Women aren't built for them either. It's just that most of them have more experience with them, that's all. Seriously. Olivia's having trouble with her heels. The size of them, that is. Is she a 7? Is she a 9? Whatever she is, she's definitely a little delusional orthopedically. I myself am a 16. Tell your friends. Black Peppa and Fleur talked about each other's coming out, and wow, talk about worlds apart. Fleur was very lucky to have a supportive mother, but poor Pep, her family didn't want a homo in their home, so she had to hide who she was. And finally, it took being seen in a gay club and being outed to her parents for her to really decide to leave, and boy, was she lucky. She had a scholarship to Coventry University for biomedical science. Go on, Pep! Literally, I think that scholarship saved her life. Biomedical science, jeez. The next day, the rubber hit the road in the workroom. Transformations were happening left, right, and center. Peppa and Danny seemed to be walking each other's line. Again, apparently Peppa's club look involved a clown white face. Good thing she was sat next to Danny in case she needed any tips. Oh! While Dakota did her makeup, Lucy talked about being a hyper-feminine lesbian, which I love. I feel the world only gets a one-sided view of lesbians. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but lesbians are usually defined in media as asexual or even masculine with a short haircut, no makeup, and a lot of plaid. Well, that look doesn't work on everyone, or I'd still be going around looking like that, I'm just going to say. This was an important conversation to have on RuPaul's Drag Race, too, because we don't often get the chance to talk about coming out stories that don't originate with males. I love that Lucy's mom was surprised by her coming out because she is such a girly girl. See? Can't judge a book by its cover. You need to actually have clothes on to have a cover. And then it was time for the main stage. Ru looked an awful lot like Michelle Visage. In fact, it was Michelle Visage. Where was Ru? Apparently, she stubbed her hip or had something much more important to do than host her own show. Either way, Michelle was taking the reins, and no one was arguing with her. Joining Michelle on the judges' table was, surprise, surprise, Raven. I hope it's not the last time we see her on the judges' panel, because she was a good judge. Of course, Graham Norton was there looking all kinds of delicious, and joining them on the judges' panel this week, whether the fans wanted him to or not, was Boy George. Category is Drag Family Realness. Jonbers Blonde and her drag daughter Nanu Noir were first. I liked their look, but I was confused by Jonbers saying they were vaudevillian sisters from the silent film era, but the judges thought they were mimes. I think that's because Jonbers wasn't declarative enough with their makeup. She didn't go big enough, especially where her own makeup was concerned. And because of that, there was no real family resemblance. So I had to give her a finger don't. Jonbers. Pixie and, well, some old fairy were next. Oh no, wait, that's Pixie's drag grandmother? Trixie Truelove. Seriously, how old did Pixie want Trixie to look? I can't believe that Pixie went so stark on Trixie's face. All that white washed her out, and all that dark contour really aged her. Plus, there were issues with Trixie's knickers and hip pads, so I had to give this team a finger don't as well. I was surprised. Love a talk from Pixie, I'm just saying. Danny Beard and Mizzy Mustache were the first team who had a family resemblance, and it was due to Mizzy saying yes to the facial hair. And it did nothing to hold her back. I'd even go so far as to say Mizzy may have outperformed her sister Danny. Fingerdoo for the Beard family, seriously. Cheddar and Brie were next, and their family resemblance was absolutely undeniable. Plus, outfits were beyond. I couldn't get over how beautiful they looked or how well Brie worked that runway. Fingerdoo for the family gorgeous. They were gorgeous. I am just going to go out on a limb here and say that I was not a fan of Black and Chili Peppa's look. Even though their dresses were cute, they were too dark to see any of their detail. As for their makeup, I didn't get it. Where Jonbers didn't go far enough, I felt Peppa went too far with this look. Plus, their makeup wasn't the same, so I didn't think there was a family resemblance with the looks either. So finger don't. The funny thing about Dakota and Bridget Schiffer was I thought Bridget looked more like a drag queen. I'm so disappointed Dakota didn't go bigger with her makeup. Hell, she's channeling 60s glamour. It was all about bigger makeup. I also think it's too bad that we just saw this wig that Bridget was wearing on Dakota 2 weeks ago. And can I just say I hated the checkerboard gloves and stockings. They were too jarring in all that peachy goodness. And yes, peachy goodness was my drag queen name in high school. And then it was time for the judges' critiques. No one was safe this week, so the judges just went in. Jonbers and Nanu were up first. For the most part, the judges liked what they were looking at, but they didn't feel there was much of a family resemblance, bless. The judges loved Pixie and Trixie, but Raven had issues with Trixie's padding, and Michelle thought Pixie let her sister mother down in the makeup department. The fact that Trixie thought she looked older in her drag makeup wasn't a glowing endorsement either. Pixie tried to pawn it off on her purple rinse, but no, it was the makeup. Danny and Mizzy were next, and it was clear that the judges loved their look. They loved the beards, they loved the mustaches, and there was no denying there was a family resemblance. But best of all, Mizzy thought she looked beautiful with the facial hair. She wasn't wrong. Cheddar and Brie were another fave of the judges, and how could they not be? They both looked stunning, and more importantly, they definitely looked like family. The judges liked the Pepper Girls from, well, the neck up, but they thought the plainness of their dresses was a bit of a letdown. Too bad. Last but not least were Dakota and Brigitte. The judges thought they both looked gorgeous, but Graham wasn't a fan of their checkerboard accents either, and Michelle thought Dakota could have done more. Again. Before the queens all untucked in the workroom, the queen team were all awarded Rue Peter badges as well. They should be. Don't tell Jonbers. Back in the workroom, Jonbers was lamenting her lack of family resemblance. She thought it was because she and Nanu had switched up hair color and the blocking of their outfits, but that's not what the judges meant. I know Pixie was trying to help, but for someone who was accused of aging her partner, I think she should have just kept her trap shut. And from the look on Jonbers' face, so did Jonbers. I just love Jonbers' attitude. She didn't come here to get judged by other queens. Jonbers is there to get judged by the judges. Here's to you, Jonbers. Well done. Don't let them tell you anything. As far as Pixie was concerned, for me, I think she should have just kept her gob shut where the other queen's critiques were concerned. Especially since her drag mother daughter was getting older and older with every minute. Seriously. Every time the camera cut back, it looked like an older woman sitting. Back on the main stage, Michelle announced that this week's winner was Cheddar Gorgeous, and queens who landed in the bottom were Pixie and Dakota. They had to lip sync to Culture Club's Miss You Blind. I'll say this, Pixie wasn't kidding when she said in the workroom she was sprinkling, that's the word, Pixie does, on the stage and sending someone home because she killed this lip sync. And sadly, Dakota didn't do anything to challenge that. So when the music died, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone that it was Pixie Polite who shantaed, and sadly, it was demure Dakota Schiffer who sashayed away. Don't get me wrong, Pixie totally owned that lip sync and was the clear winner, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I wish that it was a double shantay. To be honest, I hate to see anyone go home on the Makeover Challenge, but this is a competition after all. I'm so sorry to see Miss Dakota Schiffer sashay away. She was a sweetie pie and a delight, but this was her moment to go over the top into deep drag country, and she missed it. Her drag daughter's makeup was more drag than Dakota's, for goodness sake, and as fierce as her past lip syncs have been, this was her third time in the bottom two. What about you? Do you think the right queen went home? Should someone else's makeover put them in the bottom? How about this week's guest judge, Boy George? I'll be sharing some of my thoughts on the matter during the closing credits, but let me know if you have any thoughts on the matter. I'm assuming a lot of the North American people watching won't. And what about RuPaul? What could have kept her from hosting the rest of her own show? Did she slip and break a hip? Was it medical? Were they testing the market to see how the show would do without RuPaul in the driver's seat? All we can do is tune into RuPaul, for now, Drag Race UK Season 4 next week, and keep our fingerdoos crossed that we get some answers. And then, when you're done, you come on back and you see me so we can compare notes. Now, please give my review a thumbs up because you know you loved it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Because if you don't, then you can't click on that little bell to notify you when I post my next video. And if you'd like to help support my channel by being a Tipperdoo, joining the Fingerdoo family on Patreon, or getting yourself some Wilma merch in my Redbubble store, the links for all of that are down in the description box below. Until next week, there's me! Seriously, Jorge. When I first saw that Rue wasn't hosting the rest of the show, like when Raven didn't come out and then she wasn't there for the runway, I thought that there was something that happened between Rue and Boy George in the past. So that was me jokingly thinking, oh, there must be some little angry thing and this is why. And no, in fact, all of this stuff about Boy George, which I knew, I mean, this is the thing, you know, Boy George is 61. I think he's an old man. I have no interest in hearing what a 61-year-old thinks about anything that's going on in today's world. In fact, I just assume out of hand that they not only don't care, but think it's all stupid, which Boy George did prove in a statement by saying that transgender people should leave their pronouns at the door. Well, I don't even understand why he has an issue on it, because he's not transgender. I'll bet you he doesn't have one transgendered friend, which is why he said something like that. But in this day and age with the social media and these receipts never going away, this is something that clearly and understandably was an issue in Britain with the Drag Race fans. Now, I also had heard about Boy George chaining some sex worker up in his basement, which I have to say I dismissed because I just assumed that's how he had sex. It was an odd story, I remember. And then because in North America, like, there was no follow-up. There was really no, you know, that kind of news. Like, Boy George chained up a Swedish man in his basement. And, you know, like, at some point in Boy George's career, especially, and no offense to him, because I know he's cleaned himself up and well done, there was some crazy activity when he was on drugs. And I feel like that Swedish abduction thing was at that time. So I just kind of dismissed it. So when I heard Boy George was going to be on Drag Race, it was like, well, it's about time. I was excited. It's like, oh, good, Boy George is going to be on. And then I read all of this stuff, and it was like, oh, yeah. I mean, if we go and cancel someone like Sherry Pie, we have to hold celebrities to the same account. But then I just watched this fantastic documentary, and I think it's on Crave, about Phil Spector. It was just an interesting movie to see, because the first thing is like, are celebrities treated differently? And I think that's the same with Boy George. You know, what, is he a vegan, so now everybody forgives him? So weird. I don't know. I just have to say that I was fine with him being on the show. I was actually excited with him being on the show until I heard what other people were saying, and it made a lot of sense. And I do have to agree that he might not have been the best person to have on the show. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it now. It happened. I mean, he's still a celebrity to a lot of people, and a welcome celebrity. So it's, you know, it's a hard one to call. But I have to say, I think responsibility of a show like Drag Race that says it's for the community, by the community, the only LGBTQ representation really that's on TV right now, in a reality format, and RuPaul is constantly either pissing off the transgender community, or you know, they have on someone like Sherry Pie and nobody did a good fact check, and same with Boy George. Like, it just, at some point you have to be accountable for yourself, and even if you don't have a problem with it, you can't ignore your audience base and the people that are keeping you, you know, in silk underwear. You can't dismiss them. You can't dismiss their issues. So that's what I think about it. Thank God he wore that kind of hat thing. It distracted me.